today we're going to break down the latest updates, official statements, behind-the-scenes information, and all emerging speculation surrounding the Old Guard 3. If you're someone who follows this universe closely, you're in the right place. Before we get into the video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content like this and hit the like button to support videos of this kind. Let's begin. On the Netflix side, things are still uncertain. The Old Guard 3 is not officially confirmed at this time, and that's creating a significant question mark among fans. Although the second film, released on the 2nd of July 2025, opened the door to what felt like a major final installment, especially with the team being captured by Discord, Netflix still hasn't given the green light. Decider and Esquire both clearly confirmed that the platform has not yet initiated a production process for The Old Guard 3. In other words, there is definitely a big story waiting to be told, but the decision depends entirely on Netflix's performance assessment. Considering the success of the first film, this cautious approach may seem surprising. According to Netflix's data, the first Old Guard, released in 2020, reached roughly 78 million viewers in its first 28 days and became one of the platform's most popular titles. This success positioned the series as a natural trilogy candidate. However, The Old Guard 2, arriving 5 years later, didn't create the same impact. A drop in Rotten Tomatoes scores, and especially the colder reception from mainstream critics, turned into one of the biggest factors complicating Netflix's decision. At the core of the criticism were the second film's tonal choices and its runtime. The Guardian described the film as messy, incomplete, and a half-finished sequel, adding that the final cliffhanger made it feel almost like an unfinished production. These critiques make it essential for The Old Guard 3 to offer not only a natural continuation of the story, but also a strong justification from Netflix's financial perspective. Considering the platform's more selective content strategy in recent years, it's clear that the third film needs a solid performance case. On the creative team's side, the picture is much clearer. Director Gina Prince-Bythewood stated in an early interview with Entertainment Weekly that the story was designed as a three-part structure from the start. Greg Rucka's comics reflect the same plan. After opening fire in Force Multiplied, the third volume, Fade Away, already establishes the thematic foundation needed for the Old Guard 3. In other words, this universe is far beyond the question of, is there a story? The real issue is, does Netflix want to turn this story into a film? In the cast, however, the outlook is much more hopeful. During the Old Guard 2 press tour, Henry Golding and Marwan Kenzari shared very positive comments about their characters' futures. Golding mentioned that Tua was written with long-term plans that incorporated elements from Malaysian culture. Meanwhile, Kenzari talked about expanded scenes deepening Joe and Nicky's relationship and emphasized that there is far more potential left to explore in a third film. It's clear from these interviews that the cast is more than eager to return for The Old Guard 3. Some actors even joked about not delaying filming too long since their characters aren't supposed to age. The director's chair is one of the most debated aspects of a potential third film. Gina Prince-Bythewood, who directed the first film, handed things over to Victoria Mahoney for the second. Mahoney confirmed in interviews with EW and Collider that the major twist at the end of the second film was intentionally crafted to extend into a third installment. However, according to Fandom Wire reports published in July 2025, Mahoney's chances of returning for The Old Guard 3 appear low. The director openly stated she might not be involved due to personal struggles throughout her career, including periods of homelessness. This suggests that a new director could bring a refreshed tone and style to the third film. The situation is a bit more cautious on Charlize Theron's side. In interviews with Ellen/Film, the actress emphasized that she hasn't received any clear signal from Netflix and noted that nothing is guaranteed in this business. When The Hollywood Reporter asked her how confident she felt about The Old Guard 3, she gave a very cautious answer. "We have no information right now." Screen Rant and AOL have also confirmed these statements. In an analysis summarizing the situation, Forbes described these remarks under the headline, "A Not-So-Encouraging Old Guard 3 Update," stressing that everything depends on how Netflix interprets The Old Guard 2's performance. When it comes to the story side, things get far more exciting. The Old Guard 2 finale looks almost like an opening chapter handed directly to the screenwriter of the third film. As noted in articles from People and Entertainment Weekly, Discord now Immortal kidnaps most of the team, essentially sending the message, Act 2 is done. See you in Act 3. The emotional weight between Joe, Nicky, Niall, Booker, and Andy. Themes of revenge, broken relationships, and ethical dilemmas all form a powerful dramatic foundation for the Old Guard 3. And Quinn becoming mortal opens an entirely new doorway for her character's arc. One of the most critical mythological details from the second film is the revelation that immortality can be transferred or even taken away. Niall being defined as the last immortal plays a key role here. According to theories heavily discussed on Reddit and social media, the Old Guard 3 might tell a dual narrative, a large-scale rescue mission against Discord, and at the same time the final answer to the nature of immortality itself. Some forums speculate that darker thematic elements from the third comic volume, Fade Away, could be incorporated. However, since the films have already diverged significantly from the comics through characters like Quinn and Discord, this remains pure speculation. When it comes to release date predictions, we have no choice but to rely on speculation. According to Decider's analysis, Charlize Theron is currently involved in a Christopher Nolan project as well as Netflix's Apex film. Therefore, the earliest she could begin filming The Old Guard 3 would be sometime in 2026. Considering the 5-year gap between the first and second films, a realistic window for a third film, including production, post-production, and marketing, appears to be late 2026 to 2027. Of course, this timeline only applies if Netflix gives an official order within the coming months. Another factor influencing Netflix's decision is the critical backlash toward the second film, which could reduce the budget and marketing scale of a potential third installment. According to Decider, the mixed reactions to The Old Guard 2 could push Netflix toward planning The Old Guard 3 as a more mid-scale final film. Given Netflix's recent cost-focused content strategy, it's entirely possible that The Old Guard 3 might end up being a more character-driven, compact final chapter rather than a massive blockbuster. However, this could also offer creative freedom to craft a more intense and tightly focused narrative. On the leaks and rumors side, things are fairly quiet. Unlike superhero films, where set photos or script leaks happen frequently, nothing of that sort has surfaced for this series so far. Most Reddit and social media discussions consist of emotional reactions from fans upset about The Old Guard 2's unresolved ending. For instance, in some Our Netflix threads, users wrote comments like, "If The Old Guard 3 doesn't happen, I'm canceling Netflix." So at this point, there are no real production leaks, only a strong wave of fan pressure. Meanwhile, comic communities discuss more detailed theories. Some fans believe the third film might borrow darker thematic elements from Force Multiplied or the planned Fade Away storyline. However, since the film series already diverges heavily from the comics with original elements like Noriko, Quinn, and Discord, it seems more likely that The Old Guard 3 will remain loyal to its own mythology. These theory discussions remain intellectual exercises about where the universe could go, nothing more. Despite all this, the fan base remains incredibly passionate, and the push for a trilogy grows stronger every day on social media. Many believe The Old Guard 2's open-ended finale makes the series feel incomplete. Niall's future, Andy's renewed immortality, and Quinn's fractured journey all create an enormous dramatic load that needs to be carried into a third film. For fans, The Old Guard 3 isn't a luxury, it feels like a necessary conclusion. Putting all these pieces together gives us a clear summary. The creative team is ready, the cast is willing, the story is designed as a trilogy, and OG2's ending directly leads into The Old Guard 3. Despite that, as of the 4th of December 2025, Netflix still hasn't made an official decision. This places The Old Guard 3 inches, the position of a final film planned on paper but waiting to come to life. Two key factors will define what happens next: The Old Guard 2's viewership metrics and whether Netflix makes room in its 2026-2027 slate for a series of this scale. If Netflix approves The Old Guard 3, one of the biggest questions will be the tone of the film. Gina Prince Bythewood's first film balanced drama and action, while Victoria Mahoney's second film embraced a faster, more fragmented style. If a new director steps in for the third installment, it could bring a fresh perspective, but it also risks tonal inconsistency. Still, given the character-driven nature of the series, it seems likely that The Old Guard 3 could become a more personal, darker, and more mythological finale under a new director. From a continuity standpoint, the strongest bridge to the third film is the threat presented by Discord in the second installment. Even though he is now mortal, his abduction of nearly the entire team and transporting them in body bags to an unknown location sets up the darkest and most personal conflict in the series. The Old Guard 3 could unfold not only as a rescue mission, but also as a story resolving the strained relationships and broken bonds among Andy, Niall, Joe, Nicky, Booker, and Quinn. Quinn becoming mortal adds enormous dramatic potential for themes of apology, revenge, and reconciliation. The third film also holds the opportunity to finally answer the biggest mythological question of the series. What is immortality truly? Who receives it? And how can it be taken away? The clues in the second film suggest that these powers aren't random, but tied to specific conditions. With Niall positioned as the last immortal, her fate may hold crucial importance not just for the team, but for the rules of the entire universe. This means The Old Guard 3 has the potential to be both a personal and cosmic finale. Another point of debate is how Netflix will position The Old Guard 3. If the platform opts for a smaller budget, more compact film, that might mean fewer large-scale battle sequences. However, it could also allow for a more character-focused, emotional, and intimate ending. On the other hand, fans want The Old Guard 3 to be a grand cinematic conclusion. How Netflix balances this expectation may determine the fate of the entire series. As of today, The Old Guard 3 is a film that both exists and does not exist. The story is ready, the actors are willing, the creative team has planned this trilogy for years, and the second film ends by practically inviting a third. But without Netflix's official approval, The Old Guard 3 remains a finale waiting on standby. In the coming months, The Old Guard 2's viewership, social media pressure, and Netflix's 2026-2027 scheduling plans will shape the decision. Here's the most honest truth we have right now. The Old Guard 3 is a fully built story that simply hasn't been allowed to breathe yet. Alright friends, these are all the concrete details and reliable insights we currently have about The Old Guard 3. Netflix's decision is still a big question mark, but given the passion of the cast and the strength of the story, hope is not lost. What do you expect from this final film? Let me know in the comments. I read them all. If you enjoyed this video, remember to hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss new uploads. See you in the next one.